The Conservative politicians, peers, Muslim business leaders and figures from Muslim charities have boycotted, as you've been hearing, the Downing Street's annual Eid reception this afternoon over the government's support of Israel in the Israel-Gaza conflict. The annual event is normally hosted by the Prime Minister of the day, but not there today was Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. He was expected to be there, but he was called away to Parliament.
Monday to Thursday.
And me, Riz Latif, on Friday.
Together, London, we've got you covered.
BBC Radio London.
Text 81333, starting your message with the word London.
Texts are charged at your standard message rate. See our privacy notice at bbc.co.uk/local radio privacy or find us on social media.
BBC
Radio London.
You know, sometimes you meet someone and you just get a really good vibe off them, a really good feeling, and you're almost as if like you've known each other for a long time, but you know this is the first time you met. That's the feeling I got from Satvinder Semi, who I've just spoken to about calligraphy, a bit about his life here in London and what he would change in London if he was mayor for a day. Really interesting chat, Mr. Satvinder Semi. I am so grateful for you making time to come in. If you missed that interview, please listen back on BBC Sounds. But first, the Conservative politicians, peers, Muslim business leaders and figures from Muslim charities have boycotted, as you've been hearing, the Downing Street's annual Eid reception this afternoon over the government's support of Israel in the Israel-Gaza conflict. The annual event is normally hosted by the Prime Minister of the day, but not there today was Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. He was expected to be there, but he was called away to Parliament, number 10 tell us. Yesterday I spoke to one London businessman who raises millions for charities regardless of faith, both here and abroad. I spoke to Asad Ansari. First time you've been invited to an Eid reception here at Downing Street, but this year you're not going.
I said I'm very, very uncomfortable with the current situation. We've got a government that is standing behind Israel, who are accused of genocide, accused of war crimes. They've made it very clear that they'll withdraw water and food to women and children who are starving as we speak. And even the killing of 3 British aid workers last week. After that, Lord Cameron came out and said that the British government carry on supplying weapons to Israel. That, for me, was the absolute red line. That, for him, was the absolute red line for Asif Ansari, a businessman who has been invited to the Downing Street reception before. He decided to boycott it today. And not go in light of what's happening in Israel and Gaza. Well, speaking to me now, we can join Imam Ajmal Masroor. Assalamu alaikum, Ajmal. Good to have you on the programme.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you doing? And under all circumstances, I would have said Eid Mubarak. I'll still say Eid Mubarak to you, but this Eid Mubarak comes with a very deep and somber mode, I'm afraid.
It very much does, Ajmal, and Eid Mubarak to you and to your family as well. Well, you're right, it does come with a somber mode, and that was reflected in the decision by leading figures from Muslim charities, leading politicians who were Muslims in the Tory party, leading businessmen boycotting today's event. Does that surprise you, or do you support the boycott?
I wholeheartedly support the boycott. I think it's a shame that Muslim leaders of any nature, whether they're business or grassroots activists or even politician or charity workers, they would even consider sitting with a government that has aided and abetted the massacre of the Palestinians, has provided political cover and continue to supply weapons with which Israel kills Palestinians on a regular basis, not just in Gaza, but also in West Bank. And I feel appalled, I feel ashamed of my government. And I, of course, wholeheartedly call for a boycott of such people. You know me very well. I'm very politically engaged, even as an Imam. I never call for a political boycott, but this is, like Asif Ansari said, a red line too far.
One thing that somebody said to me who was there today, In fact, a number of people said they had really struggled with a decision to go today to the reception. But one particular person said that he had had a discussion with his family over the weekend as to whether he should go or whether he should boycott. And he said to me in a very gentle voice, he said, you know what, I thought about it and I thought, well, Downing Street is doing an Eid reception for my faith, for something I believe in. It's a celebration, and I want to be there to acknowledge what they're doing. He said at the same time, he completely respected and he would not condemn anyone who decided to boycott it, because he said he came close to doing that as well. And in his opinion, he said there wasn't a wrong decision to be made. It was all about the individual. Is that something you would agree with, or do you have a slightly harsher line on it?
I have a harder line on it. I was invited by Tony Blair's office not that long ago, when he was the Prime Minister, actually a long time ago. But and when I arrived, I was told that he's not going to be one of the speakers, or he's not even coming. So I went. And when I was there, he decided to turn up and speak. And I was appalled by the fact that he came and he started speaking. This was at the back of the Iraq War, as you remember, the illegal Iraq War. And I wanted to ask Mr. Blair some direct questions, but I was blocked by some of the security staff as well as Muslim advisors present. So I took a space right at the back of the room, waiting for my opportunity to leave as soon as possible. But lo and behold, Tony Blair came right in front of me and put his hand out to shake my hand. And I said to him on his face, Mr. Blair, with all due respect, I do not shake hands with people whose hands are soaking with blood of innocent people.
Did you say that to his face?
I said that to his face. And it was heard by the 300 people who were there, who only a few minutes before were vying with one another, bending over backward to take pictures with him. I felt disgusted. And I said to him, Mr. Blair, if you think your one samosa and a bit of speech will wow the Muslim community, you've got something else coming. And I said to him very categorically and unequivocally that your policy and your illegal war has led to the millions of Iraqis displaced, complete region destabilized, and a death of thousands of people. And you know what he said? He said, no, I don't believe that's to be true. And I said, Mr. Blair, you're not even repentant. And I just walked off. And Asad, it's deja vu for me. What I'm witnessing right in front of me is a government which is continuing the double standard, the unethical foreign policies that they pursue in the Middle East. They sell weapons of mass destruction to monstrous government. They side injustices, and they don't deal with the root causes of the problems in the Middle East. Palestine has been one of those that has been festering in the entire lifetime of mine. 53 years I've been watching this unfold every few years, Asad.
Right. So
I would never ever say it's a moral quandary. It's an absolute moral decision. Don't go, don't attend.
Well, that is a much harder line you take than the person I spoke to this afternoon. So would you go as far as to condemn people who went?
I would say they need to ask their own conscience. As a Muslim, we have a parameter by which we operate. We don't side with the injustice perpetrators. We don't side with injustice enablers. And we don't side with people who watch silently while injustices are being perpetrated or enabled. In whichever category of people our friends who had attended thought they were going and seeing, they need to ask themselves, is that the moral thing to do? While nearly 40,000 Palestinians have lost, majority of whom are children, have been killed mercilessly. And they will have to ask that question to themselves, and most importantly, on their own conscience, for the generations to come, people will ask, why did you bother going, and what change did you manage to make?
Okay, let me pick up on that, because with these opinions that you are expressing eloquently, but people will disagree with some of the things you have said, are your opinions, and of course you are fully entitled to them. But like you have just said, people will ask, what difference did it make? Now, you just told us a story about when you came face to face with Tony Blair, what you said to him and how he responded to you, and that was a number of years ago. Well, people would say nothing changed as a result of that. So by boycotting this event today, by deciding not to go, or even if people did go and wearing a Palestinian flag badge, people could say that's not going to make the slightest bit of difference. So why do the boycott? Why make the comment you did to Mr. Blair? It's clear that none of this is working. So why should people continue to take the stands in this manner that they do?
I would like to engage, and I think we should all engage in politics. In fact, we should take part in politics. We should stand in good offices. We should vote. We should vote with our conscience and our feet. I'm not asking for disengagement from political process. I'm saying we should disengage with genocide enablers. It's a very distinct difference. By not participating, we don't gain much. That's true. But participate with who? Engage with who? And in whose terms? We have seen successive government ignore the advice of Muslim communities repeatedly. We told Tony Blair's government, it is unethical for you to attack Iraq. He went and did it. We told successive governments of problems after problems. You remember 7/7, 9/11, people like myself, 24 hours a day were busy being interviewed by your television stations as well as many others, speaking to politicians, constantly engaging. Has anything changed? No. So it's time, Asad, we took our own fate into our own hand. And we stood against these so-called politicians who don't speak on our behalf and took them to task and say, no, we will vote with our feet in the next election and we will not engage in your terms. You will engage with us in our terms because we're the voters.
But let's not also ignore the fact that there are countries who are using the processes that are open to them to challenge what is happening. I know you have used the word genocide. Other countries like South Africa have brought action against Israel through the International Criminal Court, and that is a subject which the court is currently considering. They have said that there is a possibility that this is genocide, but they haven't ruled on that. So countries cannot take action unless they know for definite, or if there is an independent court ruling on this thing. So it's not as clear cut maybe for a government which has to represent all people of different opinions to perhaps take the hardline view which some people in that country like yourself might have, whether it be one way or whether it even be in another way.
What do you say to, okay, let's cut to the chase. Forget about calling it a genocide. Can we call it a mass murder? Can we call it massacre? What have the 12 to 15,000 children and another 15,000 women have done to Israel to deserve this atrocious way of being blown to bits? Surely our government and international governments can see this happening. And it's happening while America is supplying weapons, Britain and Germany are supplying weapons and intelligence. So we are aiding and abetting, if nothing else, mass murder of children and women. Should we not do something to protect those lives? We should. I believe our government has miserably failed. The opposition party has miserably failed. In fact, Keir Starmer, out of all people, he's supposed to be a human rights lawyer.
Okay.
He said Israel had the right to commit that war crime that is defined as war crime. It's an abysmal state of affairs. So I'm saying, I said something very simple. While international community and International Court of Justice decides on whether it is genocide or no genocide, nearly 40,000 people have died. More than 80% of Gaza is flattened. More than 2 million people are displaced and more will die because of famine. We should have protected the lives. Forget about the terminology. One life lost, innocent life lost. It is the lives of the entire humanity that is being lost. And I am standing up for those people and saying we should boycott genocide enablers and aiders and abettors of those people who perpetrate horrible crime in the entire world, not just Israel and Palestine.
Imam Ajmal Masroor, thank you for your time this evening, for your strong opinions, which you have eloquently voiced as you usually do. I have always said that this show is open to people of all persuasions, whatever their point of view. I'd like to hear those views. I've just heard yours, Ajmal Masroor. In the same way, I would welcome people who have opposing views to you, whether they say that it was wrong to boycott and the Muslims who were invited should have attended. That's absolutely fine. Whether they say that what Israel is doing in Gaza is completely justified and it's right for the government to support the Israelis with arms and with intelligence because they feel that Hamas should be destroyed regardless of the cost and what they're doing in the difficult situation they would consider as reasonable. Whatever your point of view, wherever you fall, either to one of those two sides or anywhere in the middle, whether it's about this boycott which has taken place at Downing Street today for the Eid celebration, please give me a call, 0800 731 2000.